For mere muggles like me, what is lab-grown diamonds?
I don't think traditions around how much money you should spend are legitimate or valid anymore.
So what I take away is, I suppose, cut is the most important.
This is the Tamora design.
I changed the ruby to my birthstone, so Charlotte always had a piece of me on her finger.
The proposee in most cases will be more interested in...
Nikolay Piriankov. Or Piriankov?
Piriankov. You got it.
Piriankov, there we go. Welcome to Behind the Proposal and
Thank
Before
you.
the Aisle.
Yeah, good to
Absolute
be
pleasure having you here with us today. So, I'm going to call you Nick if that's okay through this.
here. Easy.
Fantastic. Okay. So Nick, I've known about Taylor Hart for some time. I was personally one of your customers. I did a bespoke ring for my now wife many years back. So I suppose before we kind of dive into everything engagement rings, what is it that clients need to think about when they're buying engagement rings? It'd be really good to dive into your kind of founder days, given that we've had a conversation about that right at the start before this podcast. So can you tell us about how did it all start, your kind of early years, and what has it taken to be what you are today?
Yeah, it's been a journey. I remember answering this question when the company was just a couple of months old. Very different answer now. It's been 12 years since we started, so a big adventure. And at the time, I was fresh out of university. I guess I was very clear on I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wouldn't say that I was absolutely clear on where I wanted to apply that. I kind of stumbled into it in a very serendipitous way. One of those reasons was that I grew up in South Africa. Mm-hmm. And I did have a part-time gig as a high school student working in a diamond showroom, which is a very odd thing to do. But in South Africa, where obviously there's a heritage and a history of diamonds, there's a lot of tourist groups coming, and they wanted someone to help out. And I was in the showroom, and I figured out a lot about the industry. Then I came to the UK, studied at the University of Manchester, thought my diamond days were behind me. But of course, I had that awareness and that experience from the trade. And graduating from university, one of my best mates from South Africa who'd actually gone into the diamond trade reached out to me. He was aware that I had learned a lot and was doing quite a few things in digital marketing. And he said, listen, I have this idea. There's a bunch of companies that have gone online to sell diamond rings, but I don't think they're doing it really well. It feels like they're selling a commodity. It's lacking emotion. It's lacking customer experience. Obviously, there's a benefit to buying online, which is around price, but they're overly focusing on price. Do you think we could get together and create a company that sells online but does it in a different way? And I was intrigued by the proposition. As I said, I was trying to apply myself in different entrepreneurial ways, but didn't have a clear purpose, and this felt like the opportunity. And it just so happened that shortly afterwards, I started thinking about proposing to my now wife, at the time girlfriend, living in Manchester. And it was great to be customer number 3 of the brand and go through all the challenges and experiences that our customers now go through, and design a business around that experience that I personally went through.
You mentioned it was one of your friends from South Africa who reached out. Was that David?
David, yeah.
So he's also the co-founder with you then, right?
He's the co-founder. He's no longer in the business on a day-to-day basis, but he's gone on to do some amazing things in another diamond company that disrupted the wholesale side.
Right,
a business called
So
Niboda.
is that competition then?
No, we're actually one of their clients, so we rely on them. So he's ended up, between the two of us, we've just kind of done different parts of the industry.
Right. So, Nick, obviously I've done some research into you, before you've come on. So as I understand, Taylor Hart was not Taylor Hart when it first started.
No.
Rare Pink?
Yeah, Rare
So
Pink.
how did that all come about, and how have you kind of transitioned over the 12 years, I suppose?
So when we started, we had this idea that we would do things that were a bit special, a bit different, and leave a signature. And one of the ideas was that we would put a little pink diamond into every single ring.
The ruby?
No, it was a pink diamond at the time.
Oh, wow.
Rare Pink.
Wow.
And we designed the brand around this, and it did quite well, and we raised venture capital. And but what we found was that the brand perhaps was a little bit more on the edgy side in terms of the positioning, and we found that customers that wanted to buy an engagement ring, there was a lot of risk that they were trying to manage, the risk and concerns around whether their partner would love the design, whether they would feel that it was purchased from a company that had the right moral standards, ethical and transparent supply chain. And we went through a process where we thought a little bit more deeply, I would say, than we initially did about the brand name, brand positioning. I'm really glad we did that exercise. And by the time we were doing this, we also had realized that our differentiation would be around customization and storytelling in the design. When we started, we weren't clear on that. And then as we kind of went through these learnings with different customers. So Taylor & Hart is really a manifestation of that. On the one hand, it has that kind of strong heritage in design and British craftsmanship, which is what we're all about. In the UK, doesn't make that much of a difference if every jeweler is, but we want it to be a global brand. In the US, I think there's an appeal to that, where we have a showroom in the US as well. So that was one thing. And the other thing was obviously the play on the words. Taylor, it's a Taylor-led process, a tailored design, but of course we're using the name, not Taylor in the literal sense. And there was this really great moment where we were like playing with the idea of what the brand name could become. And David, I was clear that I really like the idea of the ampersand because we are connecting people in this product. And I love the idea of Taylor. I was actually went into a deep dive and a rabbit hole around Elizabeth Taylor and her love for jewelry. So there was a little moment there. And David just in one of these board meetings just said, it's heart, because that's the genesis of everything. It's people, coming from love. And then we were like, but we're going to lose the pink diamond. People love the pink diamond. And we knew that moment that the heart would be the ruby and the signature gem. So now I'm sure you're piecing together all the things that you can see on the website.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I love the story because it felt considered. It felt like intentional. Perhaps the first brand name was more of a what kind of .coms are available out there. And the second one was something that really was a manifestation of all of the work we'd been doing for a few years. And I believe that it's worked well for us to transition to that name.
And that's really interesting, actually, because I suppose there's a lot of kind of founders out there. There'll be a lot of kind of smaller businesses out there which are trying to create something from scratch. And they've obviously gone down a path. They've come up with a brand name. And it's, for them, that is normally their child. That's their baby.
Yeah.
Now, to kind of step back, think again and say, actually, we're going to rebrand everything. We're going to change our name. What happened which led you and David to decide that? There must have been some kind of turning point there.
Yeah, no, there was. And it was one of those really profound experiences for us was being involved in something that's called a startup accelerator.
Got it.
We went over to Boston in the US and we did something called Techstars. And really it was at the time where we were looking at like how to take the next step and really grow as a business. And I think at that point, you're surrounded by mentors and people that you trust. That's you're giving away some of you're putting your faith and trust in other people's experience, years of experience. And I think there we really got challenged as to whether Rare Pink was in line with everything that we were trying to do. And we realized that there's a really good opportunity here. It wasn't just about the name. It was about being intentional around the entire brand. And I would say that as a founder, I'm very solution orientated. I'm very much obsessed with customer experience, but I won't say that I've come from a background of being a brand builder. So perhaps we didn't put enough time and energy when we started into thinking of all the consequences of deciding on a look and feel, a tone of voice, a brand name. And it was really a turning point where we said, we obviously, for such a product, it means so much to customers that they feel like they understand the brand's proposition because it's an emotional product and they want to get it right. And, there's a lot of products that people don't overthink, but for an engagement ring, it really is, because here is a man in most cases, obviously we have same-sex couples too, but in most cases, a man buying an engagement ring as a surprise. And it says so much about them, their consideration into this product, and they want to make sure that that message is well received. And a brand name, a brand's message, a brand's look and feel carries a lot of weight for that purchase.
And do you see a lot of, I suppose, I know you mentioned men, and it's the same for us. I mean, I'd say 97% of our business, Fairy Tale Proposals, it is guys who are proposing. Yes, we have, same-sex couples. We have some women proposing to guys. We've had a couple of those this year, which have been fantastic. But when it comes to guys, do you think they are that intentional when they buy engagement rings?
I believe they've become more so over the years. I think it's come from the fact that a couple of things have happened. The first is we've seen people getting married less frequently. So the decision to get married now is one which I think is more considered rather than a we have to do it because society dictates that. So I think when people get married, there's a lot more intention into it. We've seen that people are getting married later in their lives, and at that point, and we've just been through a wonderful process of interviewing customers who've just bought. Kind of done a fascinating thing. It's a special type of interviewing process, maybe because you're interviewing me. You can look into it. It's called a jobs to be done framework, which has been fascinating. And it's all about interviewing existing customers and trying to understand their motivations beyond the engagement ring that led them onto this journey, and seeing how as a company we can try and meet other customers with those same motivations earlier in their journey. So it's all about trying to understand those customer motivations. And one of the things that we saw from that is just how people that get married today, obviously there are still very young couples getting married, but there's a lot more that are getting married at a later stage. Many of them already have mortgages. Many of them already have children. And I think at that point, we both have kids and are married. Purchasing something for your partner when you're already married and have a mortgage and have a kid, it better be right and considered, because to spend a lot of money and for it to not be something that she's going to love and wear, it's really wasteful, So I think back, let's say decades ago, there was a sense of a man would buy a ring and she would love it just because he proposed, and it wouldn't necessarily be as much of a question of whether that design was exactly the design she wanted. But now I think our clients, we see more people visiting the website that are women that are maybe going to just educate themselves, find designs that they like. And then of course there's all kinds of wonderful and creative ways in which that connection happens between partner, in most cases women telling their partners. Of course we still have complete surprise proposals, but I would say that the more we did a survey, more than 75% of our customers have had a stakeholder other than just themselves informing this. Whether that's a friend, whether that's the partner subtly hinting, whether that's the partner outright saying, this is the design that I want, you propose when you're ready, but don't get it wrong. And I think that does make it a much more considered purchase than perhaps a few decades ago.
We're further down the process. So I suppose when clients call us, when we speak to them, we have, I suppose, the bucket of clients who have gone shopping together. Their partner knows, they've been together for several years. Like you said, they're later, they're not getting proposed in the 20s, maybe in the 30s. And they've kind of chosen the ring together. But she doesn't know when or how he's going to propose. Or we have, I suppose, the guy who knows his partner very well, has spoken to friends, family, their best friend, to try and get some hints, tips. What does she like? To try and find the kind of perfect ring. So, but then equally, I suppose there is a small, and I would say this is probably about, I suppose we don't have the data, but I would say just on kind of gut feeling, there's probably, I suppose, 10% of guys who will call and just say, I'm going tomorrow to buy the ring. I want the proposal the next day. This is my budget. You tell me what I need to do. And I'm sure it's the same with engagement rings. You will have a small proportion of clients who are just happy to walk through the store, and have a look what's on offer and say, actually, this looks amazing.
Absolutely.
I think she'll love this.
Absolutely.
And there it is.
And I think that there's a lot of magic in that. I think that a lot of people can read their partner's tastes and preferences, right? So, some people can't. I can't shop clothes for my wife, but I can buy other things for her, So it's just
diamond rings.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that, of course. And in interviewing our customers, we did find some of these, we call them like push motivations, things that are pushing you to buy quicker. Often it is a child on the way. We found that is an absolute stimuli to a FOSS proposal, which we have spotted. And on some occasions it's doing things what we would call the wrong way around, but who's to say what's the right and wrong way around having booked this wonderful holiday, just thinking of it as being a holiday, and then in the last minute going, you know what, am I going to get a better chance to propose? I know I've done it the wrong way around. Maybe I should have thought about the ring first, then the holiday, but the holiday is coming up. I really love this person and I need to go quickly get a ring. And it's, that's an absolutely appropriate reason to buy last minute, and no one should feel like that's not a considered purchase, Whatever's
right for the couple.
Exactly.
And whatever feels right. I actually want to step back. So, of course, right at the start of this conversation, Nick, you mentioned that, the word tailor, right? Customization. Can you talk us through what that customization looks like?
Yeah.
So if we have a client listening to this today and they are thinking about purchasing an engagement ring, thinking about proposing, what is it that you offer that others don't?
Yeah. I think, look, it's hard to say that we do it and others don't, because customization, we know we didn't come up with it. We're not the only ones to do it. But I'll tell you what it is that we do that we believe is best in the world. Every company, I think, has to have a point of view on the one thing that they do best in the world. And sometimes that's a combination of a few things that uniquely they combine. One of the things that happens when you create a made-to-order online company in any category, not just in diamond rings, is that you end up by not holding stock, you naturally are not pushing product, because any jeweler that has stock, no matter what the customer wants, ultimately the only way they can make the sale is to give them what they have. So that limits the world of what a customer may be able to buy from a company. By not holding stock and by being a company that says, hey, we'll make the product to order. Obviously, we're constrained there by people who need a ring next day. We may not be able to make it for them. Maybe going to a traditional jeweler's is a better option for them. But for those who have a little bit of time and can wait the couple of weeks that it takes to craft one of our pieces, it allows us the opportunity to go into any interaction with the customer and first listen and ask questions. So it's an empathy-based approach. It's the consultants try and understand the customer, and with all of their knowledge and expertise on understanding both the partner and the proposee, what their lifestyles are like, what stories they are, they can make recommendations around something that could be a little bit special, a little bit different, and what's right for the couple. So I guess that's the first thing, is when you're a traditional jeweler, you can't do that really. I mean, if you have an abundance of stock, you might be able to, but when you're starting from a blank canvas, you could really craft and design the product exactly to the customer's needs. And that doesn't always mean that it has to be a unicorn ring and with all kinds of extravagant design features. Some customers do really, really eccentric, crazy things. And we love them, even though in all honesty, we end up making no money on those, because the amount of time that we go into to do it, to design it, develop it, and as with any product development, we get it wrong. We have to remake it because it's a completely new thing for us as well. But why we love those is because they kind of like help us showcase what the brand is all about in the most extreme version. But what I find really special is people who don't need that and actually find that little details can carry as much story. And one example of that is, I talked a lot about the pink diamond on the inside and the ruby, which is the heart of Taylor and Hart. And naturally, this became a thing of people saying, hey, can I change that to something else? Because I'd love to put we've got a baby and they were born in September, and sapphire is the birthstone of September. Can we put a sapphire in there? And suddenly it became, wow, this little thing that is hidden inside the ring that people won't even see. So it's not even an aesthetic to show off. And that's what I love about our customers, is like the fact that they care about things that are just between them, as opposed to being about how big the bling is, that's a specific type of customer that I'm very proud to be able to serve. And we've had customers come to us and say, I'd like 3 gems for the flag of the country where we're from, And we've had, I want the cat in there, the 2 children, my partner, and there's 5 stones in there, each different color and type. So that's an example of what can happen when you are able to create a blank canvas and ask questions about the couple and their lives. And our sales team, we have a very high retention rate, and it's a really important thing because it's a long ramp up to get to this kind of customer experience. And often if someone's been in the trade for 10, 20 years pushing product, it's very hard for them. So a lot of the people in our team have been with us from their first job, and we've kind of like evolved the company culture into them as they've developed in the business.
It's really interesting because I know at the start of this podcast I mentioned that I was a customer. So I used to live in Singapore. I used to work for one of the big 4 consultancies out there, and this was during COVID. So I'd moved out there, I think just before 6 months before COVID hit. And then at that point, 6 months later, or kind of a year later, I was thinking about proposing to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. And I went online just like most guys to say, look, where can I buy an engagement ring? What's the first thing I need to think of? And I remember reading this article actually. I can't remember what page it was or where it was, but actually there was a piece on Taylor and Hart. So if you can imagine the Forbes or any kind of one of those articles, Taylor and Hart, small description, click here for the website. It's okay. haven't heard of Taylor Hart before. Yes, I've heard of other brands, and I've gone to certain stores and, Oxford Street or wherever it would be. So I've clicked onto it, and this kind of portal's come up, and, you can customize a ring, you can choose the ring, the carat you want, the shapes, the band, all of this. So I thought, okay, fine, this is really interesting. I'm thousands of miles away from the UK. It's COVID. I can't really go out too much. Yes, I can probably go into a store with a face mask, but actually this is something I can sit here for hours and hours and just tinker around with. And that's what I did. And I remember, still on my WhatsApp on the phone, I think, actually, when as soon as you kind of put your request in, a WhatsApp group is created. I went for kind of a bespoke ring. And I remember just having all of this back and forth on WhatsApp. And for me, this may not work for a lot of you, but I suppose for your customers, that was fantastic, because I remember being in bed in Singapore and just talking to someone about,
how did you keep it a surprise? What was the name of the the company?
What do you mean, sorry?
Was it Taylor Hart, or then you named us as something else, as a not to spoil the surprise? We had a couple of customers.
Charlotte was in the UK.
Oh, okay.
So I was working out, the COVID hit, borders were closed, so we were apart anyway. So
easy
for me, it was very easy, and even the shipping process. I mean, small tip, I suppose. I shipped it out to Singapore, so I didn't pay that 20% VAT in the UK, which was fantastic. So,
yes.
And actually, I've got the ring with me. I thought I'd
Wonderful.
bring it up.
Yeah, always love surprises.
So, before we even open this, can you talk me through? I don't know if we can see this on screen. Actually, I think we can. The box. I did not expect this coming through the post.
Yeah.
How did you come up with this?
Well, I guess the packaging part is it's got two purposes. The one purpose is to be reflective of the significance of the purchase. Of course, now we've actually reduced the packaging, mostly from a sustainability perspective, something that we've been caring about. And it also has to functionally protect the ring. Yeah. Anything smaller and it can move around here, there's a lot of stability. So, and there's also a bunch of paperwork and other assets that have to all fit into one place. So it's really, most of the packaging, I would say, is let's meet its functional purpose. And then there's a little bit of thinking around, when you open this, you want to have an experience of opening it up, not just something really small.
I did not expect this.
Yeah.
When it came to I actually had it posted to a friend's house, because Charlotte was visiting. She lived down the road. And I remember her texting me saying, "Ricky, it's arrived." I remember Charlotte was there at the time, and I was like, so eager to see this thing.
You're like, I'm just going to pop it in my pocket quickly.
Exactly. But when you've spent thousands on this small thing, you want to see it, you want to feel it.
Yeah.
So Nick, can I ask you to open this? It's unfortunately it's not in its original box. We've lost the box, so we've got it in another box. But I'd like to open this and see if you can tell me a little bit about the ring.
There we go. So this is one of our...
It needs cleaning. It's been 7 years.
Should I take it to aftercare after the end of this, or you just double up on this? So it's a classic design. I would say this is one of the most classic designs. It's a 6-claw. Okay. It has a name, actually, this design, because it's so old that it's called the Tiffany style design.
Right.
Now I can see that it's got some customizations around it from the original Tiffany, but the beautiful thing about this design is that the band has like a knife edge, which when seen from the top has a really nice aesthetic in terms of how that looks. You can have a rounded edge, you can have a flat, but this one has what's called a knife edge. Yeah. And what we've done with our version of it, because every jeweler has their version and we've had our own take as a story, is we found that the original Tiffany one, which obviously they're going to protect and never change because it's there, if when worn, it can be a little bit sharp on the sides.
Interesting.
So we've done a little bit of smooth, and I'm don't know if exactly your design has this because you said it was bespoke, but on our version of this, our interpretation, we smoothen out a little bit on the side, so it's a little bit more comfortable to wear on the
side. I do
side.
remember something like that, and I also remember on these WhatsApps, which I still have on my phone, the conversational structural integrity of the brand came up, because I remember saying, so Charlotte as a person, she's very minimalistic, like she won't be wearing bold jewelry. She likes to keep it very low key. So for me, it was like, okay, how can we tweak the band a little bit, make it smaller? And I remember whoever it would be, the designer, saying, I think we've got to the limit of the band before it impacts the structural integrity of it itself. It may warp, I think it was mentioned. So we ended up with this. But like you said, I still remember when I was in Singapore, I went out to kind of Orchard Road, which is the kind of Oxford Street equivalent. And I went to Tiffany, and I thought about the Tiffany ring because it's classic. But then what kind of shifted my perspective was when I saw Taylor Hart, you had the ruby.
Can I take it out?
Yeah, please. And then as I had conversations with the designers, I thought, okay, how can we get something which actually is classic, but how can I customize it? And that's where we landed on this. The message in there, it's personal to us, so maybe we won't read that out on the podcast. But the stone was changed as well as an
something
example.
On the inside, it's just for you. Yeah.
And even the best bit about it, I think this is what swung it for me, was I changed the ruby to my birthstone, so Charlotte always had a piece of me on her finger, and it's something that we've always had, and that was the kind of main draw for me, I suppose. So it all comes back to this kind of customization aspect, which I completely get, given that I've brought the ring with you. My best friend, when he got married, I kind of recommended Taylor Hart, and he went into, I think it was the store in Moorgate. There used to be some steps you go into.
Well, that's its own journey. We used to have a showroom.
That's it.
And as of this year, we now moved into a full Covent Garden store, taking the next step in our own adventure as a business. Yeah.
And Nick, you've got a couple of rings with you today.
Yeah.
If I put this away. So I suppose what will be really interesting is for the listeners out there who are thinking about now, buying an engagement ring for their significant other, where do they start? What's the first things they need to think about? What are the key considerations?
Yeah, I think there's probably two main things that I would say about this. The first is I do find that sometimes men who come in, as they focus a lot on the diamond. There was some online brands that created big businesses around selling diamonds online, right? I'm not going to name them here. And then they did very well in the first 10 years. And then they stopped doing so well because, in my opinion, there's only so many customers that we give them a persona. We call them, they're the diamond geezer. That's a customer persona. They come obsessed with the diamond. I think the diamond is a very important part of the purchase. But we have to remember, and we have this expertise and experience, that the proposee in most cases will be more interested in the whole, not just the diamond. And I find that that's the first thing, is to think about what your partner might like first, not in optimizing the exact price and details of the diamond. So look at the big picture, zoom out. What's the kind of style? What kind of metal? Are we going to be able to get her ring size? How can we guess that? We're doing some cool things right now with AI where we're uploading photos of hands and getting with reference material and getting really good approximations. So our sales team used to do this.
Can you do ring sizes?
Yeah, well, it tries, and sometimes it gets it wrong, but we have had more success than not with getting ring sizes.
I'll let you finish, but I've got a sure proven way.
So the big picture there is like, let's look at all the details of what your partner might like and not just like in terms of aesthetics, but also, is she active? If she's active, let's get a ring that perhaps takes that into account. If you'd like another ring in the future that is more extravagant with more side diamonds that she wears on occasion, but think about the engagement ring. Most people like to wear it every day. So if someone is very active or is in a job where it's tricky, maybe we need to lower it. So it's thinking about all the details of the people's lives and preferences first, not focusing in on the diamond.
Sure.
But then ultimately you do get to the point where you have to consider that most engagement rings will have a centered diamond or gemstone. Yeah. And at that point, I think a very big question that a lot of people have now, and I don't think that customers are equipped to make the right decision on their own, is whether to go for a colored stone, a natural diamond, or a lab-grown diamond. And I think lab-grown diamonds weren't something that people were considering until a few years ago, but now it's very much out there. Yeah. And what we are finding is that there's a lot of kind of one-directional commentary from the industry. If you are a jeweler that's decided to only sell lab-grown diamonds, you might create a biased narrative around the benefits of lab-grown, the downsides of natural, and customers. And I think that's kind of not right. So we as a business have always been about designing something for the customer that's right for them. So it was a very easy decision for us to say, we'll continue to sell natural diamonds, we'll continue to sell colored natural gemstones, because a lot of people love color. It's a big thing about our brand, is color and stone. And we're going to introduce lab grown, because ultimately lab grown allows certain customers to achieve an aesthetic of a bigger diamond that they may not have had the budget for. But we're not going to say that one is better than the other. We're going to try and be very transparent about the benefits and the downsides of each type of stone, whether it's structural, whether it's store of value for the future, whether it's just an emotional thing. And I think that's a very confusing space for customers right now, because especially on the diamond, they're trying to decide what's the right thing for them, what's the right thing for their partner, and they're being bombarded with biased messaging from jewelers who have decided to only tell one part of the story.
And Nick, for mere muggles like me, what is lab-grown diamonds?
Of course, you see, I've already assumed that you have. Natural diamonds have been mined for the last 100 or so years, and they were formed under certain conditions in Earth's evolution more than 2-3 billion years ago. Those conditions will never repeat again. So the conditions that were present then, it's not like coal where, as trees die this is, diamonds were formed in these conditions. Once we can't find any more pipes, which is where we find them underground, they will never form again. So we mine them and we polish them, and obviously we're trying to do that in a sustainable and transparent way, because we have exposure to the industry where 23 years ago there was a crisis in Africa. There's a movie about this. Everybody knows about blood diamonds. So that's natural diamonds, and natural gemstones are much the same. They're formed and mined and polished in a sustainable way. What lab-grown diamonds are is trying in the laboratory, in a factory, to simulate those high pressure and high heat conditions to create a diamond that comes in a lab that is identical in terms of its properties to a natural diamond, but of course is not identical in terms of its story. It was made in a factory as opposed to found underground. So, and over the last few years, the factories that are creating these lab-grown diamonds have gotten really good at that. So they're creating a high quality product in terms of how it looks. So the color of it, the clarity, it's very close to the highest levels of natural diamonds. The problem, of course, is that because it's a factory and there's unlimited resources, if you wanted to grow more diamonds, you can just put capital into investing into buying equipment and doing so. So what that means is that the product hasn't got any scarcity. It just can be abundant. We could make as many as we wanted to.
Fine. So you've got the economies of scale.
Yeah.
To reduce the cost itself.
To reduce the cost.
You mentioned a couple of words. You said color, clarity. So it gets me something I know about, I suppose, 4 seasons. I first came across the 4 seasons when I was thinking about buying an engagement ring. But if you could simplify that for our listeners, what is it they need to consider? What are the 4 C's?
Yeah.
And of the 4 C's, what would you say is most important?
So obviously the 4 C's were the first and most important ways in terms of deciding which diamond is right for you. I've elevated that to another level, saying natural or lab, which we can come back to later again. But within natural and lab, both types of diamonds, the 4 C's are the same. So that's one thing to say.
Right.
And what they are is cut, color, clarity, and carat weight. Now, most people are aware of carat weight. They know from the media the size of the diamond. What they forget is that it's not the size, it's the weight. And you could have a 1 carat diamond that looks from the top bigger than another 1 carat diamond, because the weight is represented in 3 dimensions. Right. But some of those dimensions could be wider from the top and shallower from wider from when seen from the top, but shallower when seen from the side. So even carat weight is not necessarily sufficient for finding the right diamond. We advise customers sometimes that we say this diamond that you're looking at is quite small for 1 carat. We can recommend you one that looks bigger for 1 carat.
I remember that.
So carat weight is one thing, but just important not to get confused with size. It's weight, and size is a slightly different parameter. I always say to customers that the most important thing out of the 4 C's, and we'll touch on color and clarity in a second, is cut. A lot of people think cut is the shape. That's not actually the case. The shape is a separate thing. You can have round, oval, hexagonal. The cut is how well the polisher, the diamond cutter, has formed that diamond into that shape. You can have a well-cut round diamond or a poorly cut. We could say excellent or ideal cut for the round, or poorly cut. And why that's important, and why I say that's the most important aspect, is the color, the clarity, and the carat weight are really kind of what's happened in nature. But the cut is where the human craftsmanship is applied. And if you cut a diamond in an exceptional way, it really has a beautiful brilliance, fire, looks wonderful. If you cut a diamond poorly, the angles of the facets are the little angles through the diamond. The way in which they reflect light back could be poor. And you could end up having something that you spend a lot of money on. Diamonds are quite an expensive product that doesn't have the same brilliance. And you may not notice that until you're sitting with another person who's got a ring, and you're looking at her ring and you're looking at your ring and you're wondering, why is that ring so shiny and beautiful, and why
yours looks dull.
What looks so dull? So I always say that people focus on carat weight because they think that's the most important thing, and of course they're aware of color and clarity, but forget that cut is perhaps one of the most important things, because buying a diamond is because it sparkles, and if you buy a diamond that doesn't sparkle, you've lost most of what you were hoping to achieve. And then of course color and clarity, these are just in most cases when you buy a white diamond, as the ring that we just looked at, and most customers buy a diamond which is technically not white, it's just the lack of color.
Right.
You want it to have as little yellow and brown as possible. And it's, it ranges from the color D. Don't know why they've chosen D as the first letter, not A, but this ranges from D all the way down to Z. Probably D for diamond. I can't tell you. I don't know this little tidbit. But and then depending on the metal color, if you have a white or a platinum, white gold or platinum, having a DEF color is what we recommend. If you have a yellow gold or a rose gold, which is a warmer metal, you can go for a lower color clarity, an HIJ, even a K, because it's against the backdrop of the warm metal color. It's harder to see that, and you can have some saving by getting a lower color diamond.
Right.
And then the last one is clarity, which is especially in natural diamonds, it's the little inclusions. When diamonds formed under the earth, they didn't just form to be perfectly the same. Yeah. There are little blemishes or imperfections in the diamond. For me, there's something special about that. They are the signature of that diamond that make each one unique. We just aim for not having zero inclusions, but making sure that they're not visible to the naked eye. What you don't want is to look at a diamond ring, see a big black dot on the top, and it's something that, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and then you feel like your diamond is tainted. But there are inclusions in every single diamond, even those that are considered flawless have just really, really small ones. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just part of combining these aspects. And what our customers end up doing, which I really appreciate, is that at some points in the conversation, they just understand that we are the experts. They understand that we don't have any product to push, and therefore it's not in our interest to sell them something that we don't think is right for them. And you can just see where they just kind of relax in their seats and just trust that we're recommending the right things and explaining things in a way that makes sense to them. Those are the 4 C's.
And I suppose just to pick something up as well, Nick, so does it depend on what shape of diamond you're going for? So as I understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, if you're going for something which is a cushion cut, where you have a lot more straight lines, there is more chance to see those imperfections. So if you're thinking of, about a cushion cut, maybe you want something more flawless. But if you're close. Oh, please take it away. Take it away.
So it's about the nature of the cut. So we have something called a brilliant cut.
Right.
And rounds, cushions, ovals are actually all brilliant cuts. So they have more, the light plays more in them. So there's more reflection of light, which makes it harder. If something is shining and all kinds of color and light, it's harder to see the little inclusions. And then you have another kind of shape, which is called a step cut. Actually, emerald is a very good example of that, where it's more like the surface of a lake, long sections of the diamond, which are straight and clear. I love those as well. They have a completely different place in terms of my preferences. They look more vintage Art Deco styles of shapes, and there, because there's these flat areas, if you had an inclusion that was a black inclusion or a cloud that was quite big, you could see it more clearly. So we definitely say that for those types of shapes, we recommend having a higher clarity grade than, let's say, a round diamond. A round diamond has been cut in a certain way to have the most amount of brilliance and reflection of light. Harder to see inclusions in a round diamond. And we use this term in the industry called eye clean. For anyone that's thinking about buying a diamond ring, that's the term. You should be asking your jeweler, is the diamond eye clean? That means, is it clear to the naked eye when looked at? Because when you get a certificate with your diamond and it says the clarity is this, let's say VS, which stands for very small, that's something that someone has seen under 10 times magnification. So the people who are grading these diamonds, giving them their certification, they're not looking at them with the naked eye. They're looking at them under magnification and saying, under magnification, I can see inclusions. But that's not what you and I care about. You and I care how this looks,
what it looks
to
like.
The naked eye.
So what I take away is, I suppose, cut is the most important.
I would say so, for me. And it's a preference. Someone could say, I really care. And I've had people, one guy said to me, I'm OCD, and just knowing that there's inclusions there, it will stress me out. So I really need it to be internally flawless diamond. And we're like, well,
fair enough.
That's you. We listened first, so we understand that's important. So my recommendation for you might be different. Let's find you a great internally flawless diamond.
Fine. So I suppose moving away from the 4Cs, and which I suppose is something which from this conversation sounds like trust your jeweler, speak to them, let them know what you want. They're the experts, so trust their judgment. Whether it's a VS1 or VVS2 or whatever it might be. To me, as a mere muggle, really, I'm not the expert. I'd leave it to you to let me know. I can probably let you know a budget. I can let you know what she likes, what she dislikes. Maybe show you a picture of her hand. But it sounds like trust the person who's sourcing the ring for you. Speak to them.
I would say first find someone you can trust and then trust them. So I think it's the process of deciding whether you're getting a good vibe from the jeweler, doing your research, reading reviews, validating that they're the right jeweler for you. But then at that point, because the alternative is that for this one purchase in your life, you're going to have to become a semi-expert yourself, which some people do. Some people come with having read a lot. And I really appreciate that. Sometimes we have to untrain some things that they've learned because, not everything that you read online. The biggest one now is with ChatGPT recommending things to customers. And we find and recommending us, which is great. We appreciate that. But sometimes it hallucinates and says wrong things.
Absolutely. Hallucinations is a big thing.
So they're coming with their ChatGPT thing and we're like, mostly right, but this one is really wrong, so don't do this thing.
Absolutely. And just for I suppose our listeners out there who may not be au fait with hallucinations, and not to go off topic, but ChatGPT will give you an answer. The whole point of AI is it needs to come up with an answer, and sometimes that answer is a hallucination. It doesn't mean it's actually factually correct. It's just based on its
a very compelling and convincing hallucination.
Absolutely. But okay, moving back to the topic of, I suppose, engagement rings then. So we see engagement rings daily. All sorts. Everything from, I suppose, the classics, something I showed you here, to the biggest rocks I've ever seen, right? And I suppose even with some of the kind of celeb proposals recently, we've seen, I suppose, Justin Bieber. We've seen, very recently, a couple of weeks ago, Taylor Swift's proposal. Can you talk me through some of those rings?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Taylor Swift one was a really interesting one for us because we've had a bit of a trend around these elongated cushions and elongated radiant type of shapes. What that means is that it's not most cushions, most radiants are a bit more squarish, and now this was a bit more of an elongated one, so it looked longer. But even the cut was a bit more of a traditional cut. There was a lot of commentary online about this. And I think that just shows, I really think that it was, again, a very considered purchase, very much reflecting what she liked. I don't think that this would have been a complete surprise proposal. Such are the stakes for a celebrity proposal. We've taken a point of view, which Rebecca, our brand director, has been championing for a few years, which is whenever a celebrity gets engaged, there's a stop the press, we're making the ring, and then we end up with 3 versions. We try and replicate it exactly as it was, maybe with the Taylor and Hart touch. The reason we do that is so we can give commentary on cost and the diamond and so on, and to show people how it may look in a more 3D way because there's usually limited photographs of it. Then we say this is our bespoke everyday person's version of it with a smaller diamond, maybe a bit more accessible, often in the range of 3,000 to 5,000. That's off the back of a ring that may have been costing $250,000 to $3 million, celebrity proposals. And then we say, and if you like the style but don't want a bespoke, here's a design in our collection that has that shape or maybe that general style, solitaire. And for every celebrity, we take that point of view and we create some content because as you know from running your own business, it's a magnet for social and press trends, right? But ultimately, I think that we try and weave in our own brand narrative to this, which is make it your own. We don't just say, here's the celebrity ring, this is the price, if you want to buy it, give us a shout, It's more like, okay, you may not, as a customer, have been aware of this kind of shape. Now that this celebrity has made you aware of it, here's our version and a reminder that you can also tweak that because that's part of our process.
And have you had clients come your way asking those?
Surge in the elongated cushions now. The Trois et Moi, which is like the 2 diamond, so 1 diamond.
Either side.
I can't remember which celebrity, but some time ago there was a trend. That was a surge as well. and color. I mean, obviously, the royals love their sapphires, and so that was another trend. And to this day, we still have people coming in. But I hear often people coming in and saying, "I like the general, but I don't want the diamonds on the side, or I don't want this." So they're already trying to make it their own,
customize it,
but giving them awareness. And I think that's what bespoke does for us. Whether it's a celebrity bespoke ring or our customers who do unicorns and motorbike rings we've had, and dragons and all kinds of animal themed. It gives customers a spectrum of what's possible they may not have known. And even though not every bespoke ring will be to everyone's liking, just being aware that that's something we can do. 20 years ago, custom would have been a wax carver making a model by hand.
Yeah.
And with the invention and the development of 3D design technologies, CAD, computer-aided design, this is now someone doing this on their computer. We use a 3D printer to prototype it. So what that has led to is the reduction in the cost and complexity of doing bespoke, where bespoke would have been not accessible because it's just too expensive. The labor of a master wax carver doing this would have been something that immediately puts it out of contention for most people. But now there's a lot of people graduating from university with 3D design capability. So there's a marketplace for people who apply themselves like that at salaries that are, that allow accessible cost of production. And so you need a team of, I've got a 3D designer, I've got the manufacturing capability with 3D printing, and we've got a sales team that is able to connect the customer's intentions with the constraints and realities of production in a way that leads to people being able to do this every day. And that was our vision. It was like, make this journey accessible to a wider audience at a price point that's that can reach more people.
That makes sense. And Nick, I'm curious actually, because it sounds like your team have naturally, looked into the Taylor proposal, the ring. How much would that cost?
Oh, I can't remember now.
If you had to just ballpark.
I mean, 7 digits for sure. 6 digits, 7 digits. Sorry, over $1 million for sure.
Wow.
But the thing about that is, it also depends on who they went to.
Of course, absolutely.
You go to some jewelers, you're paying 10 times more just because it's that jeweler, and when you have an unlimited budget, as Taylor does, she may have paid for the experience of shopping from a specific designer jeweler. It's another thing to come to us where we're not putting a brand on top of it. Yes, Taylor Hart, the brand is about, but we're not putting you should pay a premium because Taylor Hart this or that. We mostly try and make the pricing reflective of the labor and the care that's gone into it, rather than an artificial, this is a luxury brand and therefore you should pay a premium just for the brand. That's not what we're about.
Sure. So I suppose there is going to be a very key consideration for anyone out there looking to buy an engagement ring, which is going to be budget.
Yeah.
What would you say is kind of the average kind of spend on an engagement ring at the moment?
There's an answer to what is the average spend in the market, and then there's an average for us. So I'd say in the market, there's still, a lot of people getting engaged quite young or without the spending power to go and buy, an expensive ring. I believe it's still in the region of £1,500.
Interesting.
Right? And lab grown has made that a very accessible category where you can get a really nice design for that amount of money, which is a wonderful thing.
Sure.
Our average is closer to 3,000. We still have natural diamond customers. Bespoke designs have additional costs related to them. But that's still significantly less than what your traditional kind of luxury high-end jeweler is charging. So multiple times better value coming to us, or any other online jeweler, I would say, delivers a lot more value because we're not holding stock. We're not paying the expensive high street rent. Even where we are from a store perspective, most of our customers are coming into the back and having consultations. It's not about the storefront. And I think as a business, that's still going to be very important to us. We're still going to continue and being like that online first business that delivers a better value product than going to a traditional store.
Nick, of course, your business has evolved from, I suppose, online. You now have this, storefront in Covent Gardens as well. I suppose you offer best of both worlds, right? If you want to just go online and customize something, you can choose the ring, the diamond, customize, place the order online, job done. But you can also go in store. So when going in store, is that, do customers need to kind of make appointments? Can they just walk in? How does that kind of process look like?
Yeah, so the surprise from opening the store is just how many people do just drop in.
Just walk in.
Which I think shouldn't be a surprise now that I think about it a bit more, because the by appointment model makes a lot of sense if you're going to just visit one jeweler.
Yeah.
But if you want to go, and I know a lot of people do want to take their time to go around a few jewelers,
Absolutely.
by appointment isn't very practical. Are you going to book 4 appointments over 4 hours and spend half your day, or are you going to just go and quickly kind of walk around? So I think it makes a lot of sense. And my view on the best experience for customers is giving them the ability to have a fantastic online experience, because so many people want to start in a low pressure environment on their phone, in their garden, just browsing, customizing, playing, learning. And but it still feels like the kind of product that a lot of people really want to at some point touch and feel. And even if they don't come in, I know that a lot of customers reference the fact that having a store, having a physical presence, doesn't even have to be a store, reassures them that the brand is a legitimate brand, that they can come to them for aftercare, which is a big part. You know, men don't always get the ring size right. Rings need to be cared for. We have an annual care package, which a lot of people use.
Clearly I need that.
No, it's been really well cared for, actually, the ring. But you know, the best use case for that is just before the wedding day. People want all their rings to look fresh and new and polished again for the photograph. So so having the physical space is just a reassuring thing that seems to work well with the combination of online. A lot of people, even though we ship fully insured, people just are like, I don't want to have my diamond ring shipped. What if it gets stolen or lost? So they want to collect from the store. So the store provides a nice amplifier to our overall customer experience. I don't consider it as the requirement for success, but I consider it a really important aspect of a modern jeweler, is to have some physical touch point capability.
Actually, pick up on a word you mentioned, insured. I remember that was one of the first things that I thought as soon as the ring landed in Singapore, you know, spending kind of five digits on it. I did not want to break this thing. Insurance was the first thing I did. Can you talk about that?
The insurance is very tricky because, you know, without getting into the business side of things, I'm sure it won't be interesting for everyone. There's not a lot of courier companies that want to insure fine jewelry.
I was more thinking when it lands.
Yes, so all the way. The insurance is, you know, end to end, and then we now have partners in the US and the UK who take over the while you have it insurance. So we recommend a partner to you who you can insure the ring. And I think the insurance, a lot of people obviously insure it for the loss. I say that insurance is a sensible one for the damage, because, you know, something that is worn on your hand that you use every single day, and if you're active, there's a lot of knocks that happen. And sometimes, you know, if you don't have the insurance, obviously we have a lifetime warranty, so anything that's within warranty will cover it. Small little things will just cover them anyway, even if they're out of warranty. But knocking a diamond out and losing it, you know, it does happen, unfortunately. Especially because, as I said, an engagement ring is worn every day, and if you're going to wear it for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, that's a large number of days to be wearing this product. So I wouldn't say necessarily that insurance is for everyone, but we do offer it, and we have a good uptake of people who take it with one of our partners that we recommend.
Sure. Okay. I suppose moving beyond engagement rings, of course, after the engagement ring, you've got the wedding band, and I think most of us will actually be quite familiar with the wedding band process, buying process. Normally couples will go together at that point. It's not a secret anymore. You want to get something that matches, you know, probably the engagement ring. But actually there's a third ring that I've come across recently, which is the Infinity Band? Yeah,
the Infinity Brand, or the lesser used now term push present, which used to be quite a widely
behind the scenes giggling away because she forced me to buy one. But let's keep going.
Look, I'll speak about this for a minute from the perspective of De Beers. So De Beers is the company that pioneered diamonds, and there's a lot of articles that are very non-flattering to De Beers and the diamond trade, because ultimately De Beers, a bit like Red Bull, is more kind of a marketing machine than a product, than a manufacturer. You know, obviously they are a mining company and manufacturing diamonds, but what really is fascinating and great kind of lessons on fantastic marketing is how they created more reasons to buy diamonds. And we, you know, I'm quite open about the fact that the engagement ring is an invented tradition, but you know, every tradition is at some point invented. Whether we want to keep it is the question that's important, and I love that we keep it, because ultimately, how many times in our lives do we really do a very meaningful surprise that means a lot
Yeah.
to the person, saying, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. It warrants an occasion. It warrants something that you can anchor that memory to. I think the engagement ring is a perfect product that does that. So I think I'm obviously biased from the fact that it's my business, but I personally feel that we should continue this tradition.
Yeah.
Of course, there are other traditions, and there's having a baby, there's getting married, and there's other jewelry around this. I would say that that the push present or the eternity ring is again a product, but I would say that it's less, for me, it has less of a longevity as an idea, because ultimately when somebody has a baby, it's a great to warrant the occasion, but should it be with a ring? It can be with anything. It can be it doesn't have to be jewelry. We do have a lot of customers who come to us for jewelry, and I don't think that the ring, the third ring, as you have the engagement, the wedding, and then has to be the only way in which you can honor this occasion. But we are obviously open to it when customers come to us asking for that third ring.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I was kind of steered into it, I suppose, from behind the scenes. But
don't get me wrong, it is a lovely
present. Absolutely.
But as a tradition, I think it's probably one that we can just be open-minded about.
And then Nick, whilst we have the opportunity, you've got 2 rings with you today. Yeah. Do you want to take a moment to kind of talk us through it?
Yeah, so one of our kind of most popular designs and covers a huge part of the things we've discussed today is the Temora design. So a couple of things about it. Again, not everything is always about seeing the ring from the top. There's a lot of detail on the side of the band, which is really beautiful, very floral, very dainty. But what's fascinating about this, and this is why we have people in the team who make decisions that aren't me on designs like this, is one of its most popular versions, because we sell different versions of it, is the one with the green sapphires. And they're not like a green that's like it's a very kind of light green, a very delicate green. And I just feel like that works really well with the color, because you don't want a luminous kind of bright green you want everything to work well in balance. And the other thing that's really interesting about this design is we've seen a trend where, for many years, I would say round diamonds were clearly the most popular shape to this day still. But for the last 2 years, we've seen a really big growth in oval diamonds. I think there are all kinds of trends in jewelry, whether it's different metals. Yellow gold is another trend right now. Say a trend, the original ring was a yellow gold ring. Platinum and white gold is more contemporary. But yellow gold is back. Color is something that we are really passionate about. We have a small team of 3 ladies in Sri Lanka who work with our team to source these little gems and have them calibrated. That's really important, because you want them all to look the same color. So this ring on its own, because of the color, because of the style being quite unique, you're not going to find a design like this elsewhere. It's very much a manifestation of our design director Kate's view on the Taylor and Hart aesthetic. And then of course the signature gem is a little green gem that works with the whole design. So this design, you might say it's just one design, but on our website it has hundreds of versions, because there's different color sides, different metals, different shapes, and one ring style gives endless possibilities that we see customers taking advantage of. And my team was very upset that I took it away, even for one day. I got a message already saying, "Where is the Temora with green? I've got a customer coming in to see it." And I was like, "Oh my god, sorry, we'll be back by noon the next day." And then another design that I think has a lot of kind of connection with traditional design is the 3-stone, the trilogy. So a center diamond, and then of course 2
on either side.
On either side. But again, there's this beautiful kind of heart-shaped design around the collet, the basket, that I think is really beautiful. So it's in the little details sometimes that we put a lot of attention, and it's great when customers see it and reflect back that that's something that was important to them, because ultimately, there are a lot of jewelers, a lot of designs, and it's in the details, it's in the story that you can differentiate, and in giving customers the choice to choose which details matter to them is our ultimate differentiating factor.
So Nick, I suppose last question for me, I'd say, on engagement rings is, for customers, as I've said, clients of ours who are thinking about shopping for engagement rings, what should they do next then? if they want to come to you, have that kind of customization process, what's the first thing they should do?
So
Next steps.
when it comes to next steps, I think I'll kind of summarize a lot of what we've spoken about already today. I think the first thing is, if you have the ability to take your time with this, I think it's really important. We know customers sometimes go to a store straight away and feel a bit overwhelmed and maybe pushed into a purchase. Salespeople can be very effective, and sometimes you end up with not exactly what you would have purchased if you'd taken a bit more time to consider the purchase. I mentioned some of the aspects to consider. I think spending some time thinking about your partner and what they may like and their lifestyle is an important one. I think have a few conversations with different jewelers. You'll gather some perspectives on what the landscape has. Of course, I do recommend, despite what I said about ChatGPT, I do think it's helpful. More and more people are going on there. It's a really great way of condensing and summarizing a lot of information, but don't necessarily believe that everything there is definitive. So take that information with a pinch of salt, go to a jeweler, and ultimately do what feels right for you. I don't think traditions around how much money you should spend are legitimate or valid anymore. It should be something that doesn't put you back in terms of feeling like you financially burdened yourself by buying this engagement ring. Again, we are agnostic as to whether a customer buys natural or lab-grown diamonds or gemstones, but lab-grown diamonds do create an opportunity for people to have less of a financial strain, and for people who, want to achieve a certain look or design but don't have the budget for a natural version of that, it's a great way to do it. Do consider the fact, and I do stress this, I think it's very important that you consider, again, when you propose, your partner may or may not ask you, is this a natural or lab-grown diamond? But I think if you don't play out that question and answer process, I am aware of some customers at that point getting a little bit jittery about and maybe not telling the truth, which is not what you want to build a relationship on. So at that point, if you can play it out, do I think my partner would care? I've heard both sides. I've heard partners going, why would you spend on natural? Definitely get me a lab grown, and others going, no, for me, it would have been nice to know that this is a natural diamond because I want to feel like it's a heirloom that it can pass down. I don't believe that would exist with lab grown diamonds, like people who have rings and pass them down. That is something special. That is something nice. That is a tradition. And I think natural diamonds and natural gemstones will still hold that store of value in that way. So it's kind of saying the same thing in many different ways, but the main thing isn't about the jeweler. It is not even about you. It's about the person you're giving this ring to, and taking the time to consider what they may like. What helps is when you go to a jeweler, they may prompt you in terms of what things to think about, because you may not be aware of all the things you should be thinking about. So that's why having a consultation with a jeweler that isn't necessarily pushing product on you, obviously selling Taylor Hart and saying that, but we're not the only jeweler who does that. I think that's the way forward, so that you can really feel comfortable with the decision you're making, and hopefully it's well received and you have a fantastic proposal. We say in the business that successful proposals is our North Star metric. The reason why we say that rather than shipped rings or sales is because ultimately we are in this with you. If the proposal isn't successful, I think that's probably a similar thing for your business, right? It's the whole proposal. But it also puts a good responsibility on our production team to deliver it on time at a high quality, not just on the sales team in making the sale. So I think we're in this with our customers, and we can help navigate the empathy side of this by asking the right questions with them.
And I think it's also, useful to understand, and I'm pretty sure it's the same with Taylor Hart, and you can confirm this, but like you say, like if you're in your 20s, you have a certain budget. You may not be able to afford the ring that you really want. I have seen other, jewelers say, actually 10 years later, 5 years later, you can always trade up. Maybe you have a bit more budget. Maybe it's a certain milestone. And you say, you and your wife or your partner decide that actually, you know what, let's trade up the size of the ring. Is that something you offer as well?
We do. We have an upgrade policy, which now it used to be just about size. Now I'm going to buy a lab grown today, but maybe I want a natural in the future. So it's not always about size. Sometimes it's just about the feeling of having something that's a bit more valuable in the long run. And also not just for that, people also change their preference and styles. I can tell you for sure that one popular trend is that younger women tend to feel, in my opinion, I guess there's a geographic thing as well, where American women always want bigger diamonds than British women. There's a sense of
I
like,
can see that.
you know, there's more of a kind of show
Yeah.
your friends, show off mentality there.
Yeah.
And people here are a bit more conscious of not
Absolutely.
having something
Yeah.
that looks too big, you know. But I can also guarantee you that when older couples come to us, and I think women are more comfortable wearing jewelry at that point, they always want bigger diamonds. So there's also that this trend of, oh, actually, you know, maybe I was a bit more thoughtful about what this diamond looked like when I first got engaged, but now I just really want what I know what I want, and I really want to have it when people are older. So that happens too.
Nick, I suppose you're on behind the proposal, before the aisle, proposal being the key word. Some time back you said you were customer number 3. So what ring did you decide on getting, and how did you propose, as my final question?
Yeah, that's a good question. So at the time, I did something that we have quite a few customers doing now. I purchased the diamond, and then I brought my partner in, and we designed the ring together.
Oh, wow.
And I proposed in South Africa.
So did you propose with just the diamond? Or?
Well, I told her I'd bought a diamond. I want to design a ring with her because I knew that she would really love that. Plus, I really wanted to learn from this experience. So there was a selfish element to it as well, which was, let's design the ring together. I'm customer number 3. By no means do I have all the expertise. Let's do it together. I think now we have a lot more confidence, but she loves that. And you know what? I feel like customer number 3, when you look back, you're like, okay, we now have so many more design capabilities, so much more. So I have said to her a couple of times, do you want to design another ring together? You know, let's. And she's so sentimental about it. She just refuses. She's like, no, you can get me another ring for another occasion, and I have gifted her other jewelry pieces and rings. But the engagement ring, she just wants it the way she designed it initially, because just the sentimentality is what matters to her.
And can you talk us through that?
So as I said, it was in South Africa, and we were kind of exploring design themes. It was in Cape Town, wine country, and there was this. She had seen a few rings, and she really liked this idea of having the waves of the sea on both sides, like really in the style of a wave, kind of holding the diamond, but it's 2 separate waves, not connecting as one. So it's a very classic design, but with a beautiful kind of wave aesthetic. Thank you very much for hosting me, and all the best to all the happy couples proposing over the next few months.
Thanks for being on the podcast. It's an absolute pleasure having you here, and I'm sure we can kind of work together further, as we both have synergies between the businesses.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
Fantastic.